Hey everybody, Johnny B. Good here. Hello and good afternoon. Greetings from, I think we're somewhere near Lake Station. Indiana. We're about 8 miles southeast of Gary, Indiana. Alright, so today is Thursday, January 30th. January 30, 2020. Which I am very, very happy to see January come and gone. Seemed like very fast pace. I don't know, it seems like the older I get, the faster the time runs, which is a good thing. Well, in the winter time anyway, right? Time is relative. Alright, the local time is 3:06, temperature is 36 degrees. And Grace and I are continuing our journey to Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. Which I have no idea how many miles it is from here to there. I've taken my GPS offline there. Kind of driving this by memory. I know what is today. Today is Today is one of my best friend's birthday. His name is Solito Aban. I met Solito Aban in the island in the Philippines back in 1974, 1975. I originally grew up in the big island of Mindanao, specifically in the town of Puerto Bogo, Cagayan de Oro City, Mindanao, where Philippine Packing is located. See, Philippine Packing is a very big company. Del Monte, Philippines. Del Monte deals with pineapples. And they are big in Mindanao. It's one of the largest pineapple plantations in the world, I believe. To begin the story, my dad was a sailor, a merchant marine, a civilian freighter. He was a chief engineer. He started as a deckhand and worked himself way up to the engine mechanic of a ship. And he did that for numbers of times around the world for many years, I think. And when he landed in the Philippines, right there by Philippine Packing, because Philippine Packing or Del Monte Philippines, they had their own pier. That's where they load cans of pineapples. I'm not really sure if they were canning the pineapples back then in I was born in 68. So I don't know if they started canning pineapples back then or they were just loading the pineapple directly to the ship. But that's when my dad landed to pick up some freight from Del Monte, Philippines, and I don't know, he was smitten. He fell in love with the country and just jumped off ship. Basically, in trucking's world, he quit. He quit his job in the Philippines. And he's been living there for over 45 years. But I think in 1973 or 74, across from Mindanao is the island of Camiguin Island. And it was always his dream to build his own harbor, his own shipping line, and own boat and all that stuff. So he moved out to the island, and that's when I started my first grade school, public school. It wasn't much of a public school, I tell you that. But anyway, that's when I befriended a kid named Solito. We call him Loloy. And he became one of my best friends. And in the barrio, his parents were somewhat, well, very influential, I suppose. You see, Loloy's parents, especially his father, was a fisherman. And they were not rich by any stretch of the imagination. But they were above average for, you know, this resource of the town or of the barrio. So, his father's name was Soriaco, and his dad could afford to build a big fishing net boat. And I remember, man, when I was a kid, there was just a lot of fish. And they had this bamboo bell. Somebody would always be on the lookout at the beach, waiting for the fish to disturb the water. And as soon as somebody saw that, they'd ring the bell, and almost half of the town, half of the barrio would converge, running into the beach and go fishing. And that includes half of the half of the school. So Loloy, he would always give me fish, lots of fish, and they were just the kind of fish that you could eat raw. They were just as fresh, and in fact, they were still alive when you were biting into it. I remember him. He had a very deep dimple. Always had this very friendly smile. He's always smiling. We should have called him Smileys. If he was an American kid, that would have been his nickname, Smiley. Oh, I can't tell you the number of times that I have slept over at their house, ate at their dinner table, and Loloy was very shy. I don't know why, but typical Filipino kids, very shy. And you have to understand, the barrio was very, very native. It was 50 years behind somewhat the modern type house. People were still living backwards. No electricity, no running water, no indoor plumbing. And of course, having an American father, we had all modern amenities. We had electric power. On a flip of a switch, we had lights. Our house was very, very bright at night. My dad loved those 40-watt fluorescent tubes. You could actually see our lights across the channel in Mindanao, which was 7 kilometers away. We had running water, indoor plumbing. I don't think Loloy has ever seen a toilet before. But then we had TVs, That took a while, though. I mean, about probably 5 years after transferring to Lito, then the TV came. My dad put up a very, very tall antenna tower, It was black and white. Never seen the TV before. While Loloy and his family slept on a native bed mat, I was sleeping on a 6-inch, memory foam. And he thought that was pretty cool. So Loloy and I would share and take turns. He would eat at my house. I don't think he ever slept at my house though. Not that I recall. One of the things that Loloy found very unusual was my dad was very, very strict on taking a shower before you go into your bedroom. Oh, my dad was he was like a warden. If he saw you sleeping in your bed without taking a shower, he would give you a whooping like you'd never forget. And so Loloy has, never seen a shower before. Oh, he loved my mom's cooking. See, my mom was also she loved baking breads, cakes, what do you call that? Muffins. Oh, Loloy could have his fill. Right after, and then as I said, every time his father would go fishing, either Loloy and I would go fishing with the adults. You see, when you go net fishing, you lay down the net, and then people would slam on the water like when you're swimming, so that the fish would panic and run into the net. And that's how you get caught. And of course, Loloy and I we were just kids. We would go on the shallow part and we would we would push the water towards out to sea where the adults were. Sometimes our job was to find rocks and throw them into the water from the beach, just to drive them, scare them, and then the adults would take care of them. Sometimes, they would go fishing and Loloy and I were not there, but Loloy would always give me a couple of pieces of fish, and we'd cook it at an open fire. And then it sure happened. Right about the 5th grade, 6th grade, a newcomer came to, I don't think she, a girl, and she was much older than we were, I think, maybe about 3 or 5 years older. And anyway, I think she grew up, she was from the barrio, her family was from the barrio, but somehow I think she grew up somewhere else, out in the mainland, I think. Her name was Yulita. And somehow Loloy and I, we befriended her, and we'd always joked around like, okay, you know, who do you like? Who do you like better, me or him? We would court Yolita. We call her the young. We would take turns to who would walk her home. Man, I haven't seen Loloy in, 30 years. Sure missed that kid. He lives in Manila. Not Manila, Baguio, I think. He lives in Baguio City somewhere. Even when I migrated into the United States, and then when I came back, he also migrated somewhere in Luzon. And once in a while, me and him would meet up at the island during our Fiesta celebration. It's kind of like when the barrio was founded. A lot of people in the Philippines would migrate to different regions and different islands, but they would make it a very important date to go home for the Fiesta or for the foundation day, for the founding of the barrio or the city or whatever place. And that would make it into somewhat of a reunion for all the people that migrated in different places. And most people would migrate to different places for employment. They would save as much money as they can. That way, when they go home to the Fiesta, they have a lot of money to blow out. And so you ask, what consists of a Fiesta? Well, everybody in the barrio would raise their livestock, whether it be pigs, chickens, ducks, grow a lot of vegetables. Everybody would prepare everybody would prepare for that day. Usually consists of 3-day celebration. And they would cook and have a feast, and everybody you invite, it's kind of like the more people that eat at your house, the more suerte, the more blessed you will be. So people would just walk around the barrio and eat at somebody else's house for free. You'll have a whole feast of foods that normally are not prepared for the whole year, just because they couldn't afford it. Even though they were very, very poor people, they would save up as much as the earnings that they can, so they would have something to offer on that founding day. And can you imagine about 100 houses in the barrio, each and every one of them preparing their specialty of foods. You could eat, 5-10 different houses in a day and be gluttonous. And as I said, it was a very great day of celebration. There'll be banners all over the barrio, and then there would be a public dance. We call them baile. There would be a public dance at night. And the tradition is that in whoever's celebrating the barrio or the founding day, they would go around the island, the neighboring barrios, and they would invite all these young girls, women. Some of them are just, I don't know, 15, 16, 18s. And they would invite them to the barrio, and they would be given a special table. They would be treated and fed, and, treated royalty and princes. But in an understanding that, let me back up a little bit. The men then would have to buy a ticket to be able to participate in the dance. It was somewhat of a fundraising. It was one way of fundraising money for the barrio. And so the men would have to buy the tickets, and these girls would have, they would have to dance. Of course, they can say no, it's not being forced. But they are lined up in a big table, and the men would go and select these girls who they wanted to dance with. And if you were lucky enough and good looking enough, and the girls would be willing to dance, with you. Some of the girls refused to dance with certain people. And of course, during the dance, people would get out this best attire, best clothes they have in their small little cabinet or little cardboard box, They would be in their best attire. And they would dance. And what do the women get for doing that? Well, they get free food, free drinks, and then as I said, whoever has the celebration would go to different towns or different barrios. And of course, it's given that, all right, we went to your Fiesta last year. Now it's, it's your turn to come to our Fiesta this year. Something like that. It was kind of public cooperation kind of a thing. And that's how they raised the money. They would often make cemented or concrete basketball courts. There was not much else to do in most barrios, but most barrios had basketball courts. And growing up with Loloy, we would always dance with the girls, even though they were older than we were. I tell you, growing up in the island was amazing. I sort of lived in a castle with modern amenities. When I was home, when I went home to our house, I was rich. I was the son of a rich American. But when I was in the barrio, I played like like everybody else. Of course, I had blonde hair. I don't know what happened. So I kind of grew up in both worlds, I suppose. I don't know, I think I mentioned this before, but there was that girl, Yulita Dayang. When I left the island to migrate to the United States, I think I kind of made a little bit of a promise to, I don't know, we were getting very close. As close as a, 12, 11-year-old kid. And I didn't notice at the time, but from what I was told, I don't even remember this, but just about 6 months ago, I caught up with Yulita, and after, many years, she already migrated somewhere else by the time I got back to the island. We were already grown up, and the wonderful world of Facebook kind of connected each other from the island and all that stuff. I didn't know it at the time, but supposedly when I was in American Samoa or wherever I was traveling, I as I said, I have no recollection of this, but it seems to fit. I could follow, I could imagine that I did, because I was a big fan of writing postcards. And so supposedly I was sending her postcards, but my mom refused to give it to her because my mom did not like her. Imagine that, one of those Hallmark TV shows where your parents did not the parents did not like the girl, or they intervene and blah blah blah. And that was my mom. Fortunately, there was a girl, one of our classmates, I suppose, that she was a working student. That's another thing too in the Philippines, is very common, is if you were poor and then you couldn't support your child, you would send your child to somebody, and that child would be a working student, as low as 12-year-old, 14-year-old girl, even younger than that, would do house chores, free room, free lodging, free school supplies, be able to send to school. Some were sent in private schools. And it just so happened that one of our classmates, Loloy, Dayang, and I, our classmate Tata, was a working student for my mom. And I guess she smuggled all those postcards that I've sent from, New Zealand, American Samoa, Western Samoa, Hawaii, Tonga, I think even some from Hong Kong, here in the United States. And as I said, just about a year, 6 months ago, Yolita and I kind of connected, and she told me that she received all those postcards. And I was just dumbfounded that I did that, because I completely forgot about that. So I guess when I was traveling, migrating here in the U.S., we did kind of stop in Samoa and all that stuff before we came here. But anyway, when I left the island, Loloy and Yolita, started hanging out. They continued their friendship. But nothing ever happened to them. And just like most kids, when they grow up, they migrate out of the barrio to look for employment elsewhere among the 7,000 islands in the Philippines. In fact, Loloy's dad and mom was very, very close to my mom. Between my mom and Loloy's parents, they were very, very influential in the barrio. And they even got involved into politics. I don't think they ever got involved directly as a candidate, but they always would use their voice to make, to let somebody win the election. Oh, Philippine politics is probably one of the dirtiest politics in the world. It's dumbfounding, crazy. I remember when Loloy's dad was very sick, and I already was living here in the United States, and I just so happened to come home. What am I doing in this lane? I just so happened to go home to the island for a vacation, and I found Loloy's dad very sick and bedridden. There was just something about that guy that, I don't know, every time I show up, he was just like his son, Loloy. He would always perk up with smiles and laugh, like kind of like the sun just showed up and made him happy. It makes you appreciate that he could look at somebody and be happy, and like it made you feel like you were a ton of gold. He made you feel like you were very important. I remember bringing a big bottle of Tylenol. I gave him about half a bottle of Tylenol. They were the 1,000 milligram. And I was able to say goodbye. He didn't last that long though. After he passed when I came back here. There was this fish that they always catch. It's called, I don't know the American name for it, but it's a silver looking kind of fish. We call it caballas. For some reason you can't find that fish anymore. I don't know, they used to be very, very abundant in our barrio, but I guess sometimes you could still find it, but they were just overfished or something. Something changed. I don't think it went, extinct. But anyway. And this is kind of the way, let's see, I arrived in the island somewhere around 73, 74. Stayed in the island until I was like 1979, 1980. Then my dad and my mom got into a fight, kind of got divorced. So my dad brought me and my brother, we migrated here in the United States, but before coming here, there was an exchange student from Western Samoa, and I know I've told this story before. They were the sons of the king of Western Samoa, and they studied in the UP, or University of the Philippines. They were studying agriculture. They were sent to the Philippines so that they can study agriculture and bring that technology back to the island. And while they were there, my dad befriended these guys, and they stayed in our house for quite some time. So when my dad was ready to pack up and migrate here in the United States, my dad decided to go visit them in Western Samoa. And we stayed at their house for quite a while. I remember there was we had a flight from Manila to Hawaii, and then the Pan Am strike happened. Now, some of you could probably trace when that Pan Am strike went. Somewhere around 79 to 80, I think it was 81. And all the flights were canceled. So we had to stay in Hawaii for about a week or so before we could go to Western Samoa. So anyway, we stayed in Western Samoa for I don't know how long. Seems like forever. And then from there we went back to Hawaii back to Sheboygan. I think we stayed in Sheboygan somewhere around 83. The fall of 83, I think it is. 84. Then my dad got homesick. He started wanting to go home back in the Philippines. So we arrived in the Philippines right after Ninoy Aquino was assassinated, I think. Yep. And so my dad decided to live in the big city of Cagayan de Oro. And that's when I entered high school. From there until 91. Yeah, 91 I think it was. I lived in Cagayan de Oro City for all that time. Then, you know, I would just go back to the island for kind of a vacation. Back and forth a couple of times a year. From 1990, 91, then I migrated by myself here in the United States in Sheboygan. And I think it had to be 1991 when I went to truck driving school in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. And I've been trucking ever since. Loloy, Aban. I hope to see my friend. Hopefully I'll see him next year, God willing. Local time is 3:50. Temperature is 39 degrees. Our delivery schedule is 2,200 hours tonight. Hopefully this traffic won't get any worse than this. Right now we got about a half a tank of fuel. We still got plenty of DEF left. Better be, we kind of filled it up yesterday. That was what, 13.999 gallons. You know, the beauty of living in an island, in a barrio, is life is so simple, so relaxed. Not so good in education, though. They don't emphasize education that much. Well, that's all I have for you guys at the moment. I just wanted to say hello and give you guys kind of an update to where I am, and Thanks for watching. Trying to be good here. Have a good and godly day, everybody. Peace.